Hello and welcome to the New Future YouTube channel. Before I begin, if you haven't seen my last video that I uploaded, go and watch that video. That is a good precursor to what this channel is about and everything that I'll be going through moving forward in this channel. And the way that this channel is broken up is there's going to be a mix of those more inspirational videos, which I did in the last video, and ones like this, which are more bare bones, and we go into more of the details and more of the nitty gritty in personal finance, investing, and all that good stuff. So with that said, let's begin. And in this video, we're going to be talking about NFTs, or non-fungible tokens. They've been really blowing up in the last few weeks, and everyone's talking about them and how it is the future. And I wanted to sort of cut through the noise, explain exactly what it is, and if it is actually worth it for us as long-term investors. If we just have a quick look on Google at some of the headlines, we've got ones like this: Meet Gen Z basketball fan investing in NFTs. But is it art? How NFTs stormed the market. We've got ones like this, which is NFTs, the new crypto wonder. What are they and what do they mean to the art world? So right off the bat, we can see there's a lot of conversation. A lot of people are trying to exactly work out what it is and how this fits into, the larger, broader scale and what this could mean for the future. So let's begin with what are they? And most people are explaining it pretty much like this. It is a way of selling digital art. And that's sort of correct, but not completely. And let me explain why. So the way that it works is NFTs use the blockchain to be able to create a certificate effectively that says you are the rightful owner of something. This could be a piece of art, or it doesn't have to be. And we'll get into this in a bit more detail later on when I'll explain exactly what can have an NFT and things like that. But you're effectively buying a token. You are buying a certificate to say that you own a particular piece of art, which means that you're not working off an art itself. Let's say you were going to go and buy the Mona Lisa, which no one can, but let's say you were going to go and buy the Mona Lisa. If you go and buy that, you'll be buying an actual physical product. You will be buying the Mona Lisa. And of course, there will be certificates of authenticity that goes with it, and you probably wouldn't be able to sell one without the other. But in this case, even though it says you are buying a piece of art, and you will be given a various file, it could be a PNG or it could be the working files of something, you are getting that. But the most important thing is in that certificate, that token that says you own it, and that's automatically tracked. So they know that you own that particular item. And if you wanted to go and sell that NFT, you will have to then go and sell it through that same system so that system knows that you have effectively sold that NFT. So the one that made the biggest headline is this one from Beeple, who recently sold this and made $69.3 million at auction. And Beeple is an artist who basically has created artwork. He creates a new piece of digital art every day, and he's done that for many, many years. But of course, if it's just a matter of selling a piece of art, we can see the art here. So other people have access to this piece of art. It's not like you are physically buying it and no one else can ever own it because effectively you've got it here. What you're buying is that certificate that proves that you have purchased it and that you are the rightful owner of that art. Now this might get a bit confusing. This doesn't mean you own the copyright, it just means that you have the ownership of that art, but you can't exactly do whatever you want with it. You still have to follow guidelines, and the copyright of this art will remain with the rightful owner, which in this case is Beeple. So in an investment point of view, how can we compare this? Well, what this works off is scarcity. So for instance, we've got this artwork and only one person in the world can own it in this case. He's got a bunch of other artwork, so he might decide he wants to sell 250 of one particular piece of art. There will only ever be 250. And in his case, he actually gives out a physical piece of art at the same time, so it's almost like a screen, and on that screen will show that art. But that's almost like an additional extra, so it feels like you're getting given something, even though you're really only buying that certificate. That is the important element of this factor. So let's just go through exactly what creates value to something. And this is true for any investment, whatever it might be, whether it might be real estate, whether it might be stock market, whether this might be buying a piece of art, whether it might be gold or silver, rare metals. This is true for any kind of thing. Collecting anything, any kind of investment, they build on these two things. So the first point you need to consider is scarcity. So how much of a particular item or a particular investment is available? So if we go to the real estate market, it's the amount of real estate available, how many properties are available at that one time. But then this is also the other main factor which works hand in hand with scarcity is desirability. How much is someone willing to pay? And that is the purpose of having the art element of it. You're trying to create something that is sellable. For example, when you're selling real estate, you're selling the house. Is that house on a nice large block, or is that house, a nice 2-story house that has, a beautiful view of the ocean or of, some sort of scenery? Or is it just in the perfect location, close to work, close to the shops, close to all the restaurants? That is the desirability element of it. And so you can't really have one without the other. Something can be super desirable. If there's a lot of that available, then it's not going to go up in price. You need to have the scarcity of that item plus the desirability of that item to go hand in hand. And that's how NFTs work. You've got the scarcity of it. So there might only be 250 or 100 or even one of something available. But then you'll have the other side of it, which is desirability. Why would someone want to own this? Is it from a celebrity, someone who's well known, or is it a really unique piece of artwork? In the case of Beeple, desirability can come in many different ways. Just remember that you need to have both the scarcity and the desirability in order for your investment to go up in price. So in the investment world, what works off scarcity? Well, the first thing you might think of are like rare metals. We're talking about gold, silver, things like that. The reason why gold and silver and other rare metals like that, crystals, diamonds, things like that, the reason why they're so valuable is because there is very little of it. It's very scarce. And it's very desirable because of that fact, that it is something that is so rare that you can't just easily get anywhere. And this works off the same factor. It is artificially creating a scarcity for an item, which in turn gives it its value. And because it's on an auction base, it's getting sold at what people are willing to pay for it. Another good example would be real estate. Even though they're very different things, real estate works off the same thing. It works off scarcity. So, for instance, if I was to buy a property in the country somewhere, there is wide open spaces, there's not too many people around, you'll find that those properties will be a lot cheaper than if you were to go and buy a property in the middle of a busy city where a lot of people want to live, but there isn't a lot of properties available. And that is what increases the price of property. It's the scarcity of it, but it's also an abundance of people who want to live in that area. So you can't really have one without the other. And this is very similar. So there's a scarcity to this item, but it's only worth what someone is willing to pay for it. And that's another factor you need to consider when it comes to NFTs. So that brings us to the next factor. What can have an NFT? Well, obviously the first thing that everyone's talking about is artwork. Digital art. That is the main focus. It is something that up until now we've never really had a particular ownership of an artwork in the kind of artwork space that we're used to if we go to like a gallery or something, and that artwork is physically owned by someone. In the digital space, you can do things like own copyright, and there's a bunch of other laws surrounding that. But in terms of in the old-fashioned way of saying I own a piece of art, this is why this was sort of built. But let's have a look at this description here that we've got from the Rolling Stone. So we can see here, Kings of Leon will be the first band to release an album as an NFT. So here we can see we've got more digital items. So we're getting an album. Effectively anything digital can be an NFT. So it can be a working file for something. It can be, music files. It can be images. Anything digital in theory can be an NFT. But as I said, that is an addition. That's not necessarily part of the blockchain. The only thing part of the blockchain is that certificate that you're getting, that token that you're getting that tells you that you own it. All of the other ownership of all this other artwork is an extra. That's saved on a server somewhere else outside of the blockchain. So bringing us back to this point is that they're also doing other things. Like here we can see This band's revolutionary tokens will unlock special perks like limited edition vinyl and front row seats to future concerts. What this is telling us is that we can effectively use the NFTs for anything we really want. So they're using it in a replacement of buying like a lifetime membership or, you know, these sort of gold passes that some of these bands will give out. This is creating that, but using the blockchain technology, using the NFT technology to be able to create that system. So it sounds like the way moving forward, there will be a particular piece of art. It could be a video, it could be a photo, it could be music. That is, you know, what you're trying to sell. That is your selling pitch. And you can add additional things to that. Like I mentioned here, you get the limited edition vinyl, you get the front row seats. And so really you can do whatever you want. Whatever additional perks you want to add to an NFT, you can. And that's what you're trying to create. You're trying to create that value. But at the same time, you're also trying to create that scarcity. So if we go back to the scarcity versus desirability factor that I mentioned earlier on, so we can see in the case of Kings of Leon, they've ticked both of these boxes. There will only be a certain amount available, but also you've got the desirability element of it. They've thrown in all those extra bits, which will help bring up the price of their NFT. So let's finish up with my final thoughts. The main question here is, are NFTs a good investment long term? And my main answer now is we just don't know. It's so early and we don't know yet if this has the long-term legs that we need it to have. So my thoughts and my views will stay the same on that. If you try and stay away from the you only live once YOLO thoughts that we all have, and we all want to jump on the bandwagon because, you know, we all want to try and make a buck. In this case, I think it's best to stay with, you know, the long-term goals that we know will work. Investing in real estate, investing in stocks. Try and stick with things that have been around for decades and have proven that they'll go up in price. Because moving forward, we need to see that this does have legs and that it can continue to grow, and that we can actually see that the value is going to go up. Because we're not going to know, the only way of knowing, it's very similar to real estate in some ways, where you're not going to know how much that will sell for unless you sell it. Unlike stocks, you can keep looking back at that stock and you know exactly, pretty much to the second, how much that stock is worth. But this is probably closer to real estate, is you don't know exactly how much that property is going to go for unless you sell it. But the thing is that real estate has going for it is that you can actually compare it to other properties. Maybe there's one that sold around the corner 2 months ago and you know exactly how much that sold for. Similar size, you know, similar amount of bedrooms. You know exactly how much that sold for. So you've got some sort of examples. But the other thing is you've got that proof that you know that real estate is a good investment and that it goes up over time, unless something completely goes wrong. Unlike this, which is still unproven, I would suggest always stick with the safer options and you're going to be better off in the long run. So hopefully you found this video interesting. This is my first sort of video, and I'm going to do more of these videos where I dive in deep and explain how things work. I'll explain my investment process, and I really just want to dive in deep into the investing and personal finance and really help you, but really you use these videos to really dive in deep and really assist you and help you with your own investment journey. Please leave me a like, leave a comment. I'm happy to discuss and talk about this further with you. What are your thoughts of NFTs? And maybe you think that it might have some benefits that I've overlooked. And if you think so, let me know in the comments, and make sure you subscribe so you can keep up to date with all the videos that I'm going to be working on. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.